I also wanted to elaborate on that last video because the last video where I was talking about those miracles and those happenings, those three things that I mentioned. The first thing that happened was the van engine blowing and organ, and then the fire was after that, and then the hotel incident with the guy that stole my identity was after that. This all happened in a 5 month period. Yeah, 5 month period from like September to January of 2018 to 2019. All those incidents is, and it was because of black magic, and it was because of destiny swapping, and it was because of energy harvesting, and it was trying to unalive me and to try and take my destiny. These things happened. Dark magic, cults, masons. Um, because it's actually completely improbable. And that's what I mean. That's how you know these things. All the things they don't want you to know are the things that don't look at. That's crazy, Like, well, then there's math and there's statistics, and some things don't make sense. That's why I make that shit make sense, because it won't make sense if something like that occurs. And that amount of time, like Christ, terrible things happening in a 3 month period or 5 6 month period, and it was with me and my children, and it was traumatic events each time. It was terrible. We went through so much hell, and we are trying to get over that still to this day, and we have so much wounding from it. And like, my kids don't even know that it was intentional, that I was being actually energetically targeted, and that's why all those bad things occurred one after another. And that's why God stepped in, and the divine stepped in each time to say, hey, we're here. They were actually trying to tell me that I was being energetically targeted, and to take my power back and to awaken then. But I didn't know. I was in a bad state. I was in a very low vibration, and I was doing low vibrational things. I was addicted to drugs. I wasn't doing good. I wasn't doing good. And I wasn't coping well with all the things that were happening, and it was only perpetuating it, which was their plan. Their plan as well was to make it perpetuate that same energy, so I would stay in that low vibrational state and end up just taking my life, or losing it in some way or another. And it was through energetic targeting, and the thought's not even my own. And it's crazy because it's been from a huge group of people that I don't even know. That's why I posted Psalms 35, like people that I don't even know, hate me and targeted me and my family. And we have a traumatic wounding because of it, that we have to, and they blame me. My children blame me and hate me for it. And that's part of the spells as well, to keep everybody from me. So I would isolate myself and want to take my life. But instead, all it did is isolate me, and I went within, and I found God, and I found my spirit team, and I found my intuition, and it grew and it grew. Because it only pointed to one thing. All these things that were happening, and there's more, way more. All these things that were happening, the way that people treated me, way that people looked at me that didn't know me, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense, but it only pointed to one thing, and it was me accepting who I was, my power. Because why would people target you if they don't even know you? Why would they hate you? Why would they come after you? Why would they gaslight you? Why would they, you know, and it was because they didn't even realize that they were being controlled through lower vibrational vessel. That's what happens when you're in a low vibrational state. The dark forces, demonic forces, can body jump from one to, it's a frequency that they can ride, and they can jump into. Like I said, I've had my son, my daughter, my best friend, and my mom, if she's my mom, um, all look at me with the same demonic look and say some fucked up shit to me. And my son was only 8 when he said it, and I was like, "What?" And he didn't remember. Each one of them, I don't know. What are you talking about? I didn't say anything, And they're like, and they gave me I remember I even bent down and I looked at my son's face. Like, I looked at him eye to eye. I got down because he was 8, and I looked in his eyes and I saw the look, and I was like, interesting. And then I just walked away. But that, it didn't make sense. It didn't. The same look, the same vibration was coming from all of them, of hate and envy and jealousy and anger and wrath, and I mean rage, not wrath, rage. And I didn't. It was targeted, always targeted at me. And I did take it personally for a long time, and they were banking on that, and they did bank on that until I realized that this doesn't make any sense. This is improbable. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, And so, and I went within. And so the same thing that they tried to use against me is the same thing that made me grow strong. It's the same thing that made me embrace who I was and figure out that I am as strong as I am energetically and DNA wise and soul wise, and um, be able to grab it, to claim my sovereignty. So they helped me, and that's what makes me grateful. It makes me grateful for my enemies, because I would have never known how strong I was if I wouldn't have been attacked in the way I was, if I wouldn't have been tested in the way I was, if I wouldn't have been targeted in the way I was. Thank God. And my spirit team and my ancestors and angels, and for real, my life is a living testimony to God and the divine. It is. But you don't want it any other way. That's the cool thing about it. Like, I'm glad that it can turn into a good story. That was me being able to co-create this traumatic and terrible experience for the highest good of all. And they had to ship me into shape, or shape me into shape. No, ship me into shape. Something like that. They did, like, energetically, because I had to I had to heal, and I had to integrate for the true truth, to bring this down, to help humanity in a way. It's going to be a mass initiation for us all, for truth, real truth of what's been going on to us, and the manipulation and the control and the lies and the hurt and the suffering and the unnecessary hurt and suffering that has happened, that we didn't know. We just didn't know at the time. That's why you got to give yourself grace. I said that a couple videos like a second ago. Give yourself grace, because what you know now, you didn't know then, a moment ago, even a moment ago. You know what I mean? And what you're going to know in the future, you don't know now. So don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be mad that you didn't know things, because you always can learn them. If you make sure that you don't get mad that you don't know them, though, you have to remove that energy right there, because it blocks you being able to actually learning more. That's how the energetic laws work. And that's why they had to ship me into shape, you know, and I had to heal, and I had to go within, and I had to face some demons, man. But I did, and I looked them straight in the face, and I respect them, though, like I said, because they made me who I am. And for that, I'm grateful. I would have never known that I hold the power that I hold if I wouldn't have gone through the things that I have gone through. And I've gone through some shit. I have. And I did it for my family, for my kids, because they did too. They did too. But they're my kids, so I believe in them. I know that they have the same strength that I do. And so even though it's going to hurt, I wanted to be there for them, and in the best way that I could be, and for the world. But for the ones that went through the same things, that were innocent bystanders. So was I, though. Like, I didn't know. I mean, like, I didn't know. I've just come to the knowing of what was happening, what was going on. I didn't know it then, and they don't know that they've been energetically manipulated into blaming me, and to separating and being further apart from me, to try and keep it so I wouldn't awaken, I wouldn't activate, I wouldn't ascend, so they could maintain their power. I'm not the only one, but I'm a strong one. I'm a starseed for sure. I'm a hybrid starseed. Like, and that's why it didn't make sense what I am. Even the shape. That's why I don't believe that Mary Ellen Sorensen is my mother. I don't, because I don't look like her, and I don't act like her, and I'm not like her. They tried to form me into being a part of them, and I never was, and it never made sense to me. But I had a suspicion even at a young age, and that's because my guides and stuff told me, were like, you know, this isn't real, this isn't true, but it's a lot more challenge or complicated and intricate than we've known. And so, but I mean, it didn't make sense because I don't make sense. Okay. Like, my DNA, the way that I am, is unique to itself. And that's because God made me this way. And we're all created unique to ourselves. We just have to embrace that from within us. And I came here through choice to do that for all of us, to go through this pain and the hell that I have, so I could come out of it and show everyone else that they can too. And to bring truth to us, because everyone deserves truth. Everyone. We all deserve truth. Even if it hurts, we still deserve it. We do. So that's more of my truth. Yeah. and I have a lot actually, That's why God's like, take a leap of faith, take a leap, put it out there. They're telling me like I'm co-creating with the divine right now. You know what I mean? We all do. But when you're doing it intentionally, that's really good. Especially with pure intentions, which mine are. They are. It's the only way to be. That's how I feel. And that's within me innately to be that way, to want for the highest good of all. And so, but I'm co-creating with the divine, and they're like, you're in the driver's seat right now. We're just kind of waiting on you to give the orders. I'm like, because I'm in the 3D realm. It's like, but I'm coming to the knowing of my remembrance of who I am, and that I do call these shots, and that I'm made of a God-given power, primal energy. I'm made of primal energy, psychic energy, and physical. I'm all the way up to my origin of my soul. And I get that back in this lifetime. And I know that I know innately within me. Like that's clear cognizant, like it's like omnipresent, dude, within me, that I get to remember who I am fully, all the way down. I have to be the one to walk through the door is the thing, like is the only thing. All these energetic blockages are in the way, and I got to move them back out or get them out of the way, and I got to heal and bring myself together, and take that leap of faith and come back to who I already am, And that was the thing about, like I said, the thing about me is that I was always like that. I was always different. And that was what I had to embrace, was that it wasn't a bad thing, even though, because that's what I was targeted for. All the things that made me unique and different were the things that I was targeted for, that people would make fun of me for, that people would demean me for, that people would, that my trauma, where my wounding lied. And it was the hardest thing to do, was to embrace who I was, but it was undeniable. Like my energy has always been that way. I can walk into a room, I can influence a whole room, and I don't even mean to, you know what I mean? I really don't. And I wouldn't in a negative way. Never, never, never use your powers for bad. With power comes great responsibility. And this is true. This is really true. I mean, that's the only way you can earn the power through your ancestors anyway. But I've had some innately within me, and that's what I mean. And it was dimmed down. But why would I be hated and targeted in the ways that I was, unless I was those things? Like he was things that I didn't even believe, because I had been targeted to not believe them and manipulated into not believing them. But yet I was still hated for being them. So it must have meant that I was them. You know what I mean? Like, even though I doubted that I was too, because I was targeted into believing, energetically targeted into believing I wasn't these things, or I wasn't powerful. I wasn't, anything that I am now, the sovereignty that I have gained now. I was targeted for those things. And so, but that's what I mean. That's the spiritual phoenix mode. That's what kicked off. It was like, well, if I'm being targeted for it, I must be it. So I'm going to accept that I am, because if everybody's already hate me for being it, I might as well be it. You know what I mean? Honest to God, like it thanks for helping me embrace what I already am, because I would have never, they were trying so hard to keep me in that, to believe that I wasn't these things, that I really must be these things, because so many outside forces were trying to make me believe I wasn't. That's why I believe I am. And that's why I made it into fruition. And that's how I actualized it and realized it, or realized it, then actualized it into my ness. It was already there anyway. I just had to embrace that it was, and stop believing the lies that had been put in the way of that truth. Yeah. So that's just a little bit extra on that last video, because that's what happened. That's why those things, like in the 3D, those were the things that manifested from the spell work and the dark magic and all that kind of stuff that was being thrown at me when my destiny was trying to be swapped, when I was being energetically targeted because of my power. How it manifested in the 3D, was my car engine blowing, the fire in my apartment, and then getting kicked out when I had no one and nowhere, and I was getting sucked into a situation, like I ended up making a bad decision because I was desperate, and which then showed me that, but I came to my senses real quick, but I still ended up having to pay for it, or not having to pay for it, not knowing what was going on all the way. And even now, I still don't know everything. I don't, if I did, I'd be back with God, and I wouldn't be here talking to you. That's the thing about growing and expanding and learning more. We have the ability to do that in so many ways, God is infinite in so many ways. Truth is infinite in so many ways. And so I don't know everything, and that's good, but I mean, I still, because of the lack of knowledge, I didn't know how to energetically protect myself and what was going on, and I didn't know to go within. I was so based on my outside world that I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. And so, thank God I'm a spiritual baddie, because and I have the ancestors that I do, because they woke me up. They woke me up when it was getting really bad. That's what I ended up moving back to Mary Ellen Sorensen's house after Iowa. She convinced me while I was over there, and I was actually doing good, but then like started going downhill. Like I'd stopped doing drugs, and then decided I wanted to again while and I'd been doing good, and and then I started doing bad, financially, and then she convinced me to come back here, and I haven't left, and it was just pure fucking hell. I lost my kids. I lost their respect. I lost everything, you know. But it made me go within, and when it did, that's when my ancestors were able to go, "Hey, this is what's really going on," you know. And me being able to know that in honesty and truth and understanding it and believing in the truth of in my intuition and knowledge, it anchored that truth in. I was able to anchor it in, which makes it a truth for us all, which makes it a real outlet. Like the justice can come in to know the wrongdoings and be able to see them. If you don't know them, it's hard to call them out. And there's power behind name. By identifying something and calling something out, there's power behind that. And so that's what we did. That's what me and my ancestors, for my highest good, and my angels and God and the divine, we created it to make a beautiful story, one that would help everyone for the highest good of all. That's how I wanted it to be. Like, if this is, especially if it goes back as far as I've just been, coming to and finding out, within these last couple of years, just how deep it really is, and it's fucking deep. Like, it's, but like I said, and that's what I mean. I said to God, I said, if we're going to do this, let's do this, like, I want this to, if I have to go through this hell, I will heal for everyone. But I want it on I want to help in a way that will help everyone. And he's like, be careful what you wish for. Well, my ancestors, be careful what you wish for, because it goes way deeper than you realize. And that's when they started waking me up into actually how deep it goes. And like I said, I still don't know all of it. And I know when I find out that it's going to hurt, you know, it is, because that's what we're emotional beings. We've been taught not to pay attention to our emotions, and I have learned to embrace all of mine, because when we're taught not to embrace our emotions, then we just create energetic blockages for ourselves and more problems, and we give our power away in ways that we actually don't want. And so being vulnerable, yeah, I think being vulnerable is like the most sexy thing in the world. Okay. Like, because somebody that is raw, that is real, that is genuine, that is authentic, someone that, that, that means what they mean. They do what they say what they mean what they do, type deal. It's one of my favorite mottos. I'm going to copyright that on there. Do what you say what you mean what you do. It's a pretty simple one. I like it. But I know I'm going to find out, and it's going to hurt, because people close to me that I thought were family aren't. And I'm not saying that they really aren't. Like, it's way deeper, than I even know. Still, I don't know it all, but I know enough. And it was just by becoming observant and listening and going within. Like I said, the isolation that they tried to cause me ended up becoming my superpower. It ended up supernovaing my spiritual gifts and doing the things that I needed to do. But I mean, that's what happened. I went within, and I'm like, God, and I was crying and I was bawling, and I'm like, help me, help me, help me, help me. And I didn't know that I was being energetically attacked, and I didn't know I was being energy harvested, and that I was being somebody, or people were trying to unalive me, get me out of the way. Unalive. Yeah, that's what it was, you know? And I didn't know any of that. You know what I mean? I didn't know that I was being sent spell work, and that spell work even did that. So, I was just like everyone else's, you know, but that's what I mean. So I was crying, and I lost everything, and I had no one, and I just cried out to God. I cried out justice, because I knew something my soul knew to cry out for justice, actually, is what happened. Because I remember saying it in a very deep tone, and I was bawling, and I just, justice. And I mean, it came from a place that is in me somewhere, like deep. Okay. And that sent off like a red flag, like a signal out to my star family and everything. Like they were like, what, like the emotion that I had tied behind it, that when I belted it out, the emotion and the energy, it sent off signals that brought my star family to me even closer than, because I wasn't actively calling them in yet. I didn't know any of this stuff yet. I just know that I was hurting and I didn't know why or what was going on. And I was, and I did want to take my life, and I planned on taking my life many times. And it is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to do. And I've had people that have committed suicide in my life, and I've always handled death terribly. I always have. Like I may turn into an emotional wreck when people die, because the loss of a life to me seems so drastic, tragic, traumatizing. It really is. Like they're lifeless bodies when they're not breathing, and yeah. But no, like but to put yourself in a state where you want to die, and you plan it to the T, even like what you're going to do. And then like I had suicidal ideation, which is going over in your head what you're going to do when you're going to commit. I mean, to the T, like planned out, because you hate yourself that much and think you should go that much, that you're worthless, that you don't deserve to live, you know. And I cried out to God, and I cried out justice, and but like I said, it's a terrible experience to go through that. It was a terrible experience. It still is. And like I said, I still don't have all the details. My memory has been tampered with, and there have been energetic implants and programs and imprinting on me that is very deep. I've had solar plexus. I mean, like I literally have had digestive problems for 4 years right now. And that's my solar plexus area and my sacral area. I mean, just screwed up. Like I haven't had my period in a couple years, and I haven't had menopause. I'm pretty young still. You know what I mean? Like, and when I tried to go to the doctor, everybody gaslight me and just tell me I was making it up in my head. And I'm like, what the heck? Like everybody did. That was another reason that that I had to accept this truth, is because nobody would listen to me when I was saying that I hurt. Nobody was listening. Like they just kept brushing it off and trying to make me feel like I was crazy. And I'm like, no, I really hurt. Like I really need some help right now. And nobody would listen to me. And it didn't make any sense. How come no one will listen to me? I didn't think everyone hated me that much, and they didn't. They were just in a low vibrational state where their vessel was able to be controlled, and they didn't realize that. That's why you have to forgive, because we don't realize these energetic games that are going on, that have been going on, and you have to forgive yourself. I did too. I was part of the low vibrational game too. I just, when I woke up, when I asked for justice, like that's what I mean. When you call in the divine, they'll show up in a way that you don't expect. You can't expect it in any way, because it's not going to show up in that way. You have to be open to the ways that it does come, and then be able to decipher it and see and make it make sense to you, and what they're trying to tell you, and what these circumstances, what these patterns and stuff like that are trying to tell you. Even what your experiences are trying to tell you, the divine is trying to talk to you always in your environment. Always. It happens to me always. Like that's what I mean. Intuition, being intuitive, you literally are, and you're synchronized with your environment to the point where the divine is always talking to you through your environment, through your manifested environment, which is great. That's what I mean. It opened me up to my gifts. So I'm grateful for that. But I did go through hell to get there, for sure. But it was to show everyone. That's what I mean. It's turning out to be a wonderful, beautiful story, because I can show everyone else what what they can do, what we can all do. We all can do these things that even I'm coming online to being able to do. We all can. We've just been conditioned into not knowing. And I came here on a soul contract to uncondition us, to bring order, to bring justice, to bring truth for us all, because we deserve it, because we are creations of God, and God does love us. He just doesn't, we just don't know, because we are little gods running around, and we'd been conditioned and manipulated, little gods running around, being conditioned and manipulated into manifesting a reality of hell for ourselves, and to uncondition us, to get us back on the right track, so that we can bring heaven in and experience heaven instead, because we can experience that instead. It is our choice. It's always our choice. We really are powerful.